Okay, so as you know, this is a rental property, so there's not much I can do about the layout of the garden, but I can plant things in it. Now, these gravel beds lend themselves for drought-tolerant ground cover type plants. There's lots of sort of areas that would look good with some ground cover in, along these edges, things like that. This particular corner appeals, that could have some ground cover in it. And again, along the edges of the paths, maybe. I haven't quite decided exactly where these are going to go, but I've got a feeling some might go in that circle, actually in it. Anyway, let's have a look at the plants I got. Now these are stone crops. So this is blue spruce, stone crop. This is gold moss, stone crop. And this is Oregon, stone crop. There's 2 of each in a pack of 6. And I got 2 packs. They were £6 each, so next to nothing. I'm seriously thinking of going back and getting some more so that I've got quite a lot more plants to start with, but that remains to be seen. So that's what we'll be doing. Okay, I did end up getting 2 extra packs. I went round and got some more. The place is nearby. Got my trusty tools out, my adjustable rake and my long-handled fork to save my back. Probably won't help much. And a trowel, and I got my list of plants because one of these can tolerate part shade and the other 2 are full sun. So I got my list out just to remind me which is which while we select where they're going to go. Right, I haven't got a clue what's under here, but first thing to do is to get the surface stones off because they'll need to go back. So this rake adjusts, both. It's got a long handle and the gap between the teeth actually adjust. So you can open it right up and do leaves, or keep it close together and do gravel. As you can see, it takes the stones off quite nicely. So these surface stones, they are slightly decorative. There's different colours in amongst them. So I've taken those off so that I can put them back on top afterwards. I've cleared a reasonable big area here. Now we find out what we've got underneath. And what we've got is rock hard soil. I was expecting this, and it's absolutely full of stones. But there is some soil. There's enough soil for these sorts of things to grow in. They don't need much. You can find these growing out of a wall, where their roots are just buried in a crevice. So there's more than enough to keep these going, but initially they will have to be kept hydrated until they establish. So for the rest of this year, until we get into the sort of winter rains and they go semi-dormant anyway, I'll need to keep them watered, keep them hydrated. Obviously this soil will drain almost instantly. As fast as you pour water on it, it goes straight through. There is a membrane under here, but it's disintegrated, so it's just not really functioning as it should do. It's supposed to be a weed suppressant, but it obviously didn't work if you saw the weeds in this place when I first started. But these gravel beds are virtually weed free now, so yeah, I'm happy to start planting, and the odd weed that comes up can be dealt with as an individual weed rather than whole patches of it. Right, so we need to get some plants out and see what sort of root systems we've got. They don't want to come out, actually. They're being a bit Of course, later on I had a brainwave and went and got my scissors and actually cut the sides down so that I could get at them better. But I wasn't thinking at this point in time. I thought they'd just pop out, but they're not. They're in there quite tight. But these packs are 2 of each of the 3 plants. So in this particular area, I'll put 4. What I'm going to do is the roots are, because they were in a pot basically, or like a pot. There's quite a lot of compost underneath the plant, which isn't really required. These are normally shallow rooted. So what I'm going to do with this horrible gravelly, stony soil is just remove some of the soil from the bottom, from the base, and just mix it in, sprinkle it slightly so that there's a bit of fibrous content in what is basically, almost pure gravel with a little bit of dirt. And that will just put a bit of fibrous stuff in there. There won't be any goodness in this soil. This will have been the cheapest stuff that the nursery could possibly produce, on the grounds that if they're going to sell the plant for £1, they don't want to be spending a lot on the medium that they're going to plant them in. So we'll mix a bit of that in as we go. I'm sure there'll be more than enough to just add a bit of fibrous into this stuff, just to give them a little bit of substance. And I want this to end up cottagey, not formal. I don't want these things planted in rows. I want them a little bit random, but they will spread quite readily. And I'm planting them slightly away from the edges at the moment so that they can spread towards the edges. Like this one here is going in the corner. Well, I'm hoping that will spread into that corner. This is the hard bit, the knees. I must get myself a kneeling cushion. We're going to be doing a fair bit of this. Kneeling on concrete is not the best of ideas at my age, it really isn't. I've also got to think about the fact that I've got down here, I'm going to have to get up again in a minute, and that's not going to be so easy. I've got nothing to hold on to, nothing to lean on. We might have to think about getting one of those kneeling stools or something. That would give me something to just heave myself up on. Haul the bulk off the ground, as they say. Anyway, this is just, it's a relatively tedious process because of the soil type. You know, in a nice little sort of flower bed where you've got nice sort of soft soil, this would be easy. But it's not so easy planting in this sort of soil. So the idea here is to get enough plants in here far enough apart that they will close the gaps quite quickly. And don't forget, in future, pieces can be taken off of this and planted elsewhere. This is just the start. This is just to get these clumps going. A little bit of fibrous stuff in the hole. Yeah, just I know they're supposed to be drought tolerant, but I think they do better if there's a little bit of moisture around the roots some of the time. You know, they will go dry in hot periods, but not this year. I mustn't let them dry right out this year. Let's let them get established first, and then come next year we'll see what sort of spring we get. If we get a dry spring, then they'll get the hose on them the same as everything else does. Otherwise, you know, if there's enough rain around, they won't need it by then. But, you know, it's just planning ahead. So you get the general idea. It's a relatively repetitive thing. I'm certainly not going to film planting every single plant. But I thought if I sort of show what I'm actually doing and why, you know, this is, as I said, adding a bit of fibrous composty type material into this gravel will just give them some substance. And a piece broke off, which was handy because I've now got 5 rather than 4, which means I can come out a bit farther along the path. I could have probably split those clumps into even more, but the smaller they are, the longer they'll take to clump up, the longer they'll take to fill those gaps in. And a little piece of a different type broke off, so I've stuck it in the ground right in the middle there to see if it will grow. I doubt it. It's a piece of one of the other plants, just stuck in the middle there. Well, if it's going to be cottagey, if it grows, you know, it can always be lifted out later, can't it? Moved. Or left there if it looks attractive. But, yeah, the idea then is to put the stones back. That means that they're not going to get waterlogged around the base of the plant, which can cause rotting. You know, if you get very long periods of cold, wet weather, you can get sort of crown rot in plants, especially if they're you know, they're sort of more along the Mediterranean plant lines where they wouldn't be expecting to get cold and wet for any length of time. So the gravel will just keep the crowns of the plants dry and stop any splashing. You know, you get really heavy rain, it can splash mud all over the plants and spoil them completely. So that helps stop that as well. So yeah. That's the general idea. Now all we've got to do is get up. You can feel me going, ouch, can't you? Right, so that's the general idea. And like all plants, despite these being drought tolerant, you always water them in well. It doesn't matter what sort of plant it is. Water them in well. Get all those little soil particles all in round those roots, and give them a good water. We're expecting rain tomorrow and Monday, Saturday today, so that'll help settle them in. So there we go. Now all we've got to do is repeat it for the rest of them. All good fun. Okay, you get the general idea. Scrape the gravel back, fork over the really stony soil, add a bit of the compost that they were growing in from their pots, just to give it a bit of fibrous content. There won't be much goodness in that, that's for sure. People don't like spending money, do they? So that's that. And although this is a cottagey type idea, I still like symmetry. So I put some of that in that corner, quite a bit actually, and I've put some more over in that corner. And then either side of this, I put some of the blue. All of these like full sun. And because I put one there and one there, I thought we'd better do the same up this end. Again, symmetry, but semi-random. Yeah? So that bit of path has got that sort either side, and then some blue in the four corners. And then this stuff doesn't like the full sun all the time. It prefers having a bit of shade, especially in hot summers. So I've put that there. That will be shadowed by that. The sun comes from that direction. And again, for a bit of symmetry, we put the rest of it over this side. So that's where it's all gone. And quite honestly, that doesn't seem like much planting, but I'm quite exhausted now. It's all very well, you know, when you've got a nice border with lovely soft soil and you just gently lift out a little hole, put the whole plant in from its pot and just gently touch the sides. You know, that's that's not quite the same as planting in gravel. So that's that. And just as a taster, we've got some more. Not today. Definitely not today. Some of these grow a bit taller, so I've got places in mind for those, and some grow very low. So it's a combination here. There's a couple of creeping phlox. There's some more sedum, very, very low growing with reddish leaves. I know where they're going. I hope they split because I want 4 of them. And then, yeah, something a bit special. This is thyme. So's that. Blue, and it is blue, real blue, and these little bits here are covered in buds, so we'll get those planted up. Now those are on offer at the moment. They were either £3 each. This is the proper garden centre now where the prices are high. They were £3 each or 4 for £10, which makes them £2.50 each, which isn't too bad. So we'll get them in another day. See you next time.